Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey with Real Music. Are you ready for another exciting interview today? I hope you're ready because here it comes, a good one. John Schlitt of Petra, the awesome Christian rock band. He's here today talking about his solo album, Go. 50 years of Petra. They're on the road celebrating 50 years. He's been with them since 1986. A lot of great albums. They've won Grammys and Dove Awards. Amazing bunch of guys, very talented. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. You're going to enjoy it, I promise you. So here we go. Here's John Schlitt.
I'm sorry I'm so late.
It's okay. It's okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I just took a shower, getting back into this part of the world and enjoying every minute of it.
I understand. Yeah, I'm glad you got the shower because the smell of foam.
Buddy, and I've had a lot of people complain about it. Yeah.
Come on. That's the main thing. So you've been on the road and things like that. How's that been going for you?
Actually, really good. I'm loving every minute of it. The Petra anniversary tour is actually doing much better than I thought it would. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but crowds are amazing. The band's playing great, which I expected, but
Sure.
actually better than I expected. And it's just fun. It's a great way to bring back memories, to get back into the groove of things, and have people that come to our concert. They're our friends, and they're
Right.
to rekindle memories and to enjoy the stuff that was part of their lives in the past, and a bunch of new people that go, keep hearing about this Petra. What's this all about? And they come in and going, whoa, which is really cool. So we're pretty excited about it.
Well, those were the people that were living in the cave that didn't know about Petra.
Oh, they weren't even born yet. Trust me. It's the kids and the young people going, well, my dad used to tell me, and my grandpa used to tell me. And so, and they've been real sweethearts. I mean, really, it's cool to see a new generation go, dang, I like what you guys do. It's encouraging.
Sure, I bet it is. The last time I talked to you though was about 3 years ago, and you had just released the Go album, right?
And
then
oldest new record I've ever had. Yes, the oldest new record in the history of mankind.
Well, yeah.
Love the record. Love it. It's still sitting in my garage. Although with the internet and stuff, I mean, it's been in public for 3 years, like you said, but pretty much for folks that are searching, they're okay. Where's John's next solo? Okay, I found it, and word of mouth gets out. It's very cool, and then fantastic interviews like yours lets folks know about it. So it's one of the things that's on my own label, and I'm a terrible label, so it almost doesn't have any chance. But it's a record I needed to do, a CD I needed to do, and I'm very happy with it. Listen. I'd love to tour it, but I'll be honest, there's no time. There's no time to tour it right now between Petra and the Jay Sekulow Band and the Union Center Saints and all that. It just sort of gets lost in the shuffle. But I'm glad you bring it up. I'd really like to talk about it. It's an amazing. I had a fantastic writing teams. The musicianship here in Nashville is ridiculous. So I was able to use some of the best people in the country. I've been very blessed with that kind of stuff.
Well, is it ironic though that, when you got ready for this album to come out, it's called Go. It's all about moving. Let's go. Yeah. And then the pandemic shut her down. Right. Gotta love that.
Oh, it was, but I listen, that pandemic just shut us all down. And I'd still listen to it go, no laying down here.
No.
So you try your best to try to work around it. And I think I might have done maybe 3 or 4 shows that whole year, that whole section. And they were adventurous, brave people to do it, which is a shame. A lot of video stuff. I mean, we did a lot of, used Zoom and all that, a whole lot more than I've ever done before. And that was fun. I mean, we did some videos from, different parts of the world together and actually presented it as a music video. And that was fun. It was new ventures.
Sure. But like you said, though, with it shutting down and you don't get a chance to tour on that, I did hear you do a song from the album on the Huckabee show, right? Recently.
Oh, that was fun.
How cool was that?
That's the kind of stuff I have on that record. It's a stomping. That was a stomping song.
Yeah.
The governor says, "John, I want some rock." I go, "Hey, Governor, how about this one?" "Yeah, that's perfect." "Oh, okay." And
Yep.
he's amazing. I love him. He's so much fun. And then he wanted to do "Never Been Any Reason," which is not necessarily a Christian song, but it's part of my past.
Sure. That's where you came from.
Yep.
And speaking of that, and speaking of, Petra and 50 years, I know you came along to Petra in what, 86, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 86.
So how'd you get the call to be in Petra? How did that start exactly? For people that don't know, I know you've answered this with me.
Well, Bob went to a friend, actually a mutual friend now. I mean, he became my best friend because he mentioned me. Bob says, "Anything I can do for you, Bob?" "Yeah, find me a singer," when Greg was leaving. And he says, "Well, what about John Schlitt?" And, he's become a Christian. He was part of Head East. He's got a voice that would be easy for Petra he'd fit with Petra great. And Bob goes, "Yeah, but he disappeared," which I did. I disappeared from public because when I became a Christian, I wanted to leave secular music altogether because, back then secular music was from hell, all rock and roll. I was a baby Christian and I fell for all that. And so I really left music altogether, and people were calling me. And at that time, there were things, I call them super bands, musicians from this band and another band, they'd get together and they'd create a new band.
Right.
And I was getting calls from managers going, "John, we just need we need you." And I'm going, "Oh boy, great temptation." But I was a baby Christian and I didn't need that. So I finally disconnected my phone, got off the grid totally. And Bob was right, I disappeared. But he was a persistent character and started hunting me down, found my brother, who was one of our road crew on Flat as a Pancake, my first record with Head East. And he found Jeff on phone book, called Jeff, said, "I'm Bob Hartman, I'd like to talk to your brother." And Jeff goes, "Oh, he's not into that anymore. He doesn't do singing anymore." He said, "Well, he might want to talk to me. He might." And so Bob gave him his number. Jeff called me and says, "Do you know Bob Hartman?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a Petra fan. Are you kidding me? That's the only music I listen to." He goes,
Right.
"Well, he wants to talk to you." It's all fantastic. So I called him, and Bob explained what was going on. And he says, he wanted to know if I was still a Christian. I said, "Yes, I'm a heavy duty Christian." And he goes, "Would you consider?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it." He goes, "Well, don't you think you should pray about it?" I go, "Yeah, okay." And but I knew my wife and I both knew. It's a long story, but we knew, and we were
Right.
ready. And they needed to find out whether it was true, and it was too easy for them. And they were scared. They were scared that it was this easy. So after a long searching and checking us out and praying about it and fasting, they realized that this works. And that's how I became part of Petra.
Awesome. That's an awesome story. Well, backing up before that, after Head East and you were fired from that band, and you had a lot of issues going on there, and you kind of came to an end, right? Didn't you?
Yep.
Can you tell me that story? Because there's people out there that need to hear this, really.
I understand, buddy. I mean, testimonies are amazing. And in my case, I got fired from my band Head East because I had been so involved in cocaine and booze, which I never started out to do. I wasn't a drinker in the beginning, but I was in a world that had nothing to do with Christ. And I wasn't a Christian at the time, believing in God, but really wasn't a Christian. I didn't have Christ. And I was fair game and fell for all of the garbage, and finally the band who weren't innocent either, but they said, John, you're just too far gone. And so they fired me, and I went out to prove they were wrong and start my own band. And really all I was doing was, it was a good excuse to stay drunk and coked up basically 24 hours a day for 6 months. And at the end of that 6 months, I'd missed my anniversary. They had a party for us. So I missed the anniversary. I got too drunk, couldn't find any Coke, and passed out. And that morning I woke up with my 1-year-old son looking at me. I had passed out on the couch. My wife just left me there. My 1-year-old son's looking at me like, Dad, why are you on the couch? Is that? And right at that, as I'm looking at him, a little voice goes, you know what? You're worth more dead than alive. Look at this example you lead. And it's like, and I totally accepted that. I said, that's true. I think it would be best for my family if I was gone. So I get up and sit on my chair, and I'm looking at my 5-year-old daughter and my 1-year-old son playing in the living room because I was there. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to use a gun. It'd make a mess. I don't want them to see it. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out the best combination of pills that would be as quick and painless as possible. My wife, who had become a Christian that same 6-month period, I was on a binge. Our God was preparing an amazing connection with her becoming a Christian through a lot of her friends. And she was trying to tell me about Christ all during this 6-month period, and I was too cool for Jesus. So that morning, early afternoon, she comes in as I'm sitting there, and she taps me on the shoulder. Remember, you promised you'd come and talk to my pastor tonight. I said, when? She says, last night when you were drunk. I said, okay. All right. And I was going there with the attitude of, I wanted her to remember that I tried. So I walked into that pastor's house with an attitude and walked out with the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And it changed my life. God is great. He, even a creature like me, he chose to allow me to become part of the family. And I remember walking out of there with my hand in my daughter's hand, and God says, okay, those treasures you've been seeking, which to me was, I was going to be rich in rock and roll to make up for all the sacrifice that I made. And he says, the riches that you have been ignoring, I'm taking care of. And I looked at my daughter, and I realized exactly what he was saying. He says, now you start taking care of them. And that was the beginning of a new life for me. A burden had lifted off my man. When I did the sinner's prayer, my burden had lifted off me that I didn't even know was there. And it really was the beginning of a new life. I was still in a band that I was trying to create for 6 months. And as a baby Christian, I went out on the road. And the road is real different. Some dive bars and just couldn't handle it. Too much temptation, couldn't handle it. Finally left the music scene totally altogether and started a new life thinking, okay, music is over with me. I had a degree in civil engineering. I was going to be a civil engineer and be a father, a husband, a Christian man. And I figured that was it. And lo and behold, after 5 years, things changed.
Right. And so how did it feel to be in the band, a band that you had admired, and appreciated? How'd you react?
It was past anything I could have imagined. I will tell you that the first time I sang with them, it was in Brisbane, Australia. And with Head East, we'd never gone overseas. So the first thing I do with Petra is I realized they're a world famous band, and I'm doing overseas stuff. So I'm already doing more than I ever did with the secular band. And so I get up there and I realize it's the first time I've sang sober in 7 years, because for the last 2 years with Eddie's, I was never sober on stage. I couldn't do it. Right. And then I'm 5 years sober as a beginning Christian. So I'm realizing I haven't sang 7 years. Blew my throat out after 3 songs. So excited. I just totally lost the professionalism that I'd had. And those poor guys stuck with me. They should. If it had been me, I'd have fired me. I'd have fired me after the first night. But they stuck with me, and as time went on, it took me about 3 or 4 months to get back in the groove, and then things started really skyrocketing. Although
Awesome.
the industry was not very kind to Petra, and when Greg left, the original singer, as far as they were concerned, Petra was over.
Right.
Because he was a very dynamic singer. And it didn't matter if the rest of the band were pretty good too. But at that time, usually use your dynamic singer, the band's over. And so we really had to do a lot of work to let people know, no, we're not over. Trust us. Just listen. And so the Doubting Thomas would. And I would have to go in and prove that, yes, it's still a band. And that was fun. Because I absolutely knew that Petra had another career. I was in me. It wasn't because I was good. It's just God had not verbally told me. I just knew for a fact that Petra had a lot to do. And it was very comforting, but it was funny. I mean, I knew every night I walked on stage, I knew I had to prove myself and had no qualms about it because Petra deserved that. Christ deserved it. Petra was God's band. And we had a vision to do what he wanted us to do, and I wasn't going to get in the way. And that was sort of my attitude.
Right. That's a great attitude to have. So when you got in there and when you recorded that first album, how fun was that when you actually got to see yourself in that mode? And how did the fans react after that first album? They had to be like,
I think actually when the first album came out, that helped because all of a sudden, the Doubting Thomas listened to it. Whoa, this is different from the other, but this is pretty good. So it was like a lot of Doubting Thomas is going, oh, wow, okay, well, let's see what these guys sound live, but it was that time period in between me joining the band and finishing the first record. That was probably the most challenging time of the band. And we took a dive down. I mean, our popularity was the crowds weren't coming because, they were told that Petra's over. Why would we do a show? And so we had to pay our dues there. And the band was absolutely willing to do it. And of course, so with me, and I was very blessed to be able to be part of that.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, amazing sounds from back in the day. And how did the sounds change though as you kind of got comfortable with the band? Did you try different things and see how things worked? How did you kind of see how that worked?
Bob, the founder, was not, he wanted to go back to rock and roll. Petra started as a guitar band, rock and roll. He's just a guitar rocker. And he felt like Beat the System was almost too techno for him. I thought it was a great record, but he didn't like that direction. So when we joined, I told him, I said, Bob, I love Beat the System. He goes, well, we're not doing that again. I said, oh, okay. He says, I want to be a rock band. I said, well, I can do that. There's no problem. He says, I know. And so then he gets John and Dino, our producers, who were totally into that. And the combination of my voice and their direction just totally took Petra into the direction Bob wanted, which was, I think, fabulous. I mean, I love the direction we went. It just got better as time went on, and it just it fit what he had a vision for. It fit with the songs he wanted to write. It fit with my voice and my live attitude. And I think it was great. It was a lot of fun. Being able to do the praise and worship album in a rock vein was cool. Just everything in that time period was a lot of fun.
Right. And I know you probably had some critics back in the day that thought, this is like rock and roll, the devil and stuff like that. How did you deal with all that back in the day?
Well, I was in the Lord for 5 years. And when I joined Petra, I thought the church would love us and the world would hate us. Well, I get in the band and realize it's totally reversed. A lot of the church hates us, and the world thought we were a great band, but just didn't like our message. So it's like total switch-o here. And we were playing at churches, and in the parking lot, other churches were picketing us. I still remember that, going, what are you doing? I mean,
Right.
we have an altar call after every service. We're watching kids get saved. Why are you picketing us? Oh, rock and roll is from the hell, from the devil. I'm going, oh, give me a break.
Wow.
The devil can't create anything. I knew that when I was a baby Christian. The devil can't create, he just distorts. And
Right.
we hand over a very exciting music form, so lock, stock, and barrel, because we have been brainwashed that it's not right because it doesn't sound like 1843.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's exactly why a lot of kids weren't going to church, because it wasn't their thing. And so we totally realized our thing is to evangelize the young kids that would relate to our music style. And that's what we did. And then, of course, a lot of critics, a lot of well-meaning. I mean, they were taught that way. I call it brainwashed, but that's how they were taught. And they were doing what they felt was right. But boy, it got in the way.
Well, how do you think, though, that these songs reach these kids and the ones that are eager? How do you think these songs reach them where preachers can't, or people that try to witness to them can't?
Very easy. We use their language. Their language was that music style at the time. It was exciting. It was adventurous. It's what they were listening to in the secular world. And we brought that same style of music to them, and they were familiar with it. But what they weren't familiar with was the message. And the message, God's word never comes back void. And first, the attraction was, wow, I like that sound. I like that. That's cool. And
Right.
it was familiar to them. But then they started hearing the words, and because they do listen to words. I mean, that's why you have music in commercials, because it's a very effective avenue to bring across the message. And so we used what was familiar to them to bring across the message that was unusual, was foreign to a lot of them. And that was our goal, to be familiar, but be totally new.
Well, the album Beyond Belief, and when you got to that point, it was just so popular. Why do you think it just came together so well for that album? I mean, it's like a greatest hits album, and it's not, but it's so awesome. How did that happen?
It was God. It really was. We functioned daily, and as God led us, we were trying to be as professional as possible, because Christ deserves the best. And we were competing. We weren't competing with our secular counterpart, our Christian counterparts. We were competing against the secular music scene, and we wanted to be an alternative to all the great bands that were out in the secular world. And so we were our goal was to be as good as they are musically and give an alternative. And with that attitude, our music, although our budget was 1/10 of what we were competing against, we had the Holy Spirit. And each record started getting, Back to the Street was sort of initial. It had Don't Let Your Heart Be Hard. No, Thankful Heart. That
Right.
was a great beginning for us. Then This Means War came out, and that was,
Love it.
that broke, it just bam, it just did it. And then we had On Fire, and then Petra Praise One, and it was just building and building and building. And then Beyond Belief came out. It was just to us, just another record, but boy, it just exploded. It just took us to a whole new level that we never looked back.
Right. And I guess it's hard to top an album like that. Did you ever find yourself trying to
Oh yeah.
keep doing better and better and
Yeah.
never?
And it was
happened?
probably it was with that, and our tour with Josh McDowell, and it was almost impossible to match it. And we tried. We had Unseen Power, which was amazing. I mean,
Right.
all the rest of the records were amazing, but the momentum could never be reached. So
Sure.
once you're at your peak, the only place to go is start going down, and we could sense that. But we'd already been a big band to 2 or 3 generations by that time, so we weren't complaining. We were just trying to fit to where we were supposed to fit. And at this time, Bob was leaving the band because he wanted to homeschool his son. Just a lot of changes went through, and band members started changing and all that. But the ministry still went on. It just wasn't as big as it was at that peak. And I was totally cool with that because I was part of that, and I was excited to go out and do what we do every night. I was excited about going and recording new songs that still served the same purpose, but by this time there were younger, the next generation had their bands, and they were doing their thing, and we were sort of getting lost in the shuffle, and that's cool.
Was that due to the fact, I know in the secular music world, there was grunge and things like that. Wasn't that the No Doubt album trying to go in that direction?
We had,
yeah.
excuse me, there was a lot of stuff that I refused to do. I mean, grunge to me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go that route. And that was happening, and we were still rocking, and all rock bands were hurting at that time. And real rock bands were all hurting because it was cool to sound terrible, and so I just wouldn't do it. And just then, how dare you say that? That was a farm. There are purists out there that say, "Oh no, this was art." Well, if that's art, throw it in the trash. I'm not an artist. It just was not cool for me. And so, but we kept doing the best we could, trying to fit with sounds and stuff, not be just totally self-gratifying and just, we weren't trying to just please ourselves. We were trying to fit in that scheme of things. A good example, Jekyll and Hyde was the last record we did, and it was a rocker.
Sure.
And Bob was doing amazing solos, but it wasn't cool to do solos. So we chopped all his solos that you missed, and it was a soloist album. And although it's really good, it just broke my heart. It could have been better, because Bob had some amazing solos that should have been heard, should have been put on, in history, but it wasn't cool to do solos.
Wow.
And that was the last record we did, because it was like, no. And we toured it heavy duty. And the next year, nobody wanted anything to do with us in the industry. We said, okay, it's the end. We retired. And we were going to quit in June, and we had like 2 or 3 shows to do. And we were going to quit in June and say, okay, it's over, and just sort of disappear. And that's when we said, no, we've got one more album with the label we were with at the time. Let's do a farewell album. Let's do a live album. And we'll just do a farewell album or tour, so we can thank everybody who wants to see us for the last time. And that was a great tour. That was probably one of the most successful tours we had in like 5 or 6 years. So wow. It was great, but we probably spent more time signing after the show than we did the show. And it was great to talk to people, and they were able to share their testimonies. And I mean, they mentioned songs that we were going, really? And I mean, like one really in particular was No Doubt.
Yes.
I mean, to me, that album was probably the most underrated record we ever did.
I agree.
It had songs on it that were amazing, but it was in that time period where our momentum was slowing down, didn't get a lot of notice, and it's a shame, because it really, so when they started mentioning No Doubt, it was like, yep, I thought so. And that was very gratifying. I think Bob wasn't surprised, but he was. I remember every time they say, yeah, No Doubt was really the song. And he's expecting, Judas Kiss or Love or Prayer, and he goes, really? No Doubt? And he kept hearing that, and he goes, and Bob's a thinker. He goes, I understand now. It was so fun. It was fun.
Well, you can add that to, you can add me to the list on that No Doubt, because the last time I talked to you, I think I told you, I met you in '98, I think in Pensacola or something like that. And, but the song No Doubt was my song. I mean, Matthew 17:20 became my favorite verse because of that song. And I still use the mustard seed, that because of that song. And I always love the fact, see, that's what, Bob needs to understand, is, all of his songs had the Bible verse, which I always loved. Right. And you can listen to the song,
Mhm.
You go back and read the verse and you see where it fits. And I think that had a special place in people's hearts because it made them believe and they could compare it to their life and use that verse and go, yeah, this is real, right?
Yeah. Well, this 50th anniversary thing is just about the same, except we signed before the show for 2 hours, and the show was about an hour and 40 minutes. So it's the same thing again, except we get to sign before. So after the show, we can sort of take it easy, and it's the same thing. It's the same, and it's just so fun to listen. It's very gratifying. It's just this anniversary thing. We just did it because it was 50th anniversary. We thought, let's do it. If anybody comes, that's great. Maybe we'll do a couple of shows. And it didn't happen that way. I mean, we're all over the world, and
Sure.
it's just cool. I mean, it's neat to see that the vision God gave us actually worked and is continuing to work. And Bob's writing is really anointed, and to be able to be the singer that presents those songs has always been a major blessing to me. So it's just I'm a very blessed singer. I'm very blessed to be part of what God's put before me.
Sure. And you're still able to sing after all these years. I was watching a video, I think you were in Norway, somebody had posted it, and I was like, wow. I mean, how do you still sing like that after all these years, man?
It's what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I told everybody, I says, when are you going to retire? I said, well, I'm not going to. There's no such thing as retirement in the word. As long as God allows me to sing, I'm going to do my best. And I'm going to be a Christian artist. I'm going to be a Christian singer. Now, I will say that if God starts taking away that voice, I'm not going to embarrass him. It's not fair for God. He deserves the best. And if I can't, now some will say, well, you've got a voice. It doesn't matter. God doesn't care. Well, God probably doesn't care, but I want to give him my best. And if I don't feel like I'm giving my best, I'd have to really be some evangelist would have to come and convince me why I should keep doing. And if he did, great. But my goal is to try to give him my best. And as long as I can,
Right.
I'll be doing it.
But you're not going to use like some fake background enhancement, something, a lot of people are doing that.
With a button. I can't have the no button. No, that's phony stuff. God doesn't need phony.
Sure. I mean, but a lot of people are doing that. So, or will there be a hologram of you one day, out there?
Well, that wouldn't be my choice. If it works, great. In 2020 or 2085, there's a hologram of me singing "Never Beyond Belief." That's good. I like
That's
that.
cool. Well, who's gonna be the next Petra? I mean, there's no bands. Do you think there's anybody out there? I mean, what's going on out there? I mean, who's gonna be that?
Well, you know what's funny? It's a different way. I mean, John of Schlitt, he is an evangelist. I mean, it's a different music. He came up a different way, but he is not at all fearful to give the word out to secular or Christian. I'm proud of John. I think he does a great job. I think Disciple with Kevin, in a roundabout, they are godly dudes that like to get, but it's different. Petra had that listening ear of everyone. We were the biggest, and so is Skillet in their own genre. So is Disciple. It's and the Newsboys. I mean, they all have their places. A Third Day. I mean, these are all bands. Now, granted, they're putting out records right now, and they're making a big difference. DC Talk. I mean, they've all separated and done a thing, and Toby is out in front of thousands of people, and he doesn't hesitate. It's just done a different way. I'll tell you what, a lot of people that don't like us or wish we would disappear called, oh yeah, they're the singing pastors. They don't realize that's the best thing they could ever say to us. But in today's world where everybody's trying to reach the general populace, it's almost like a kiss of death, which to me is like, no. And some of these guys that I mentioned, they see it, but they do it a different way. Is there a Petra? I don't know. Some would say, yes, I'm the Petra of today. And God bless them. Their spirit probably says, absolutely, this is what we're doing. And I'm not going to argue with them. There's a lot of bands that are still out there. And I mean, there's a lot of Christian rock bands that you never hear because the industry won't play them. And they are heavy duty Christian. And so we just were allowed to be played sort of begrudgingly. And we were very blessed in doing so.
Sure. I've talked to Michael Sweet a couple of times, you know, Striper. Ain't that a great?
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Striper, Michael he does it a different way. They make some decisions sometimes that I don't think I would do, but Mike and the guys are Mike and the guys, and they come and they do what they feel is right, and certainly don't hesitate to talk about the Lord.
Sure.
So, you know, it's genres. Maybe it's because Petra was almost the only thing out there.
Right.
So a lot of people went, but now there's so many options of godly people. It's not quite as big. It's not quite as grandiose.
Right.
Still big. I mean, you can't get much bigger than Skillet. Can't get much bigger than Newsboys or Striper. So it's just a different ballgame.
Sure. Well, as this tour progresses, you know, have you ever thought about Petra recording any new music or anything like that for an album or anything, or is that something you're not going to?
There was something going on at the beginning of this year that actually had Bob writing, and it was a possibility that would make sense for us to do another record. And it sort of disappeared a little bit. There's nothing's being said about it right now. This is all I can say at this moment. And so the writing has sort of been shelved, and there are songs out there that I sang for Bob. There's new songs ready, or ideas that are ready. But if this project doesn't come about, I don't think there's a reason for it, you know, unless it's a special project to have a new record. We're an old fish in a small pond with a lot of fishes there. So if there's a need for, if God feels there's a need for Petra to be there to do what we do, it'll happen. If not, then we've got nothing to prove. And we're doing what we're supposed to do. There's so many other avenues. John's a producer. Bob certainly deserves to retire and do what he does. And the other guys in the band are all staying busy doing other stuff. And you know me, I stay busy doing a bunch of stuff, which is great. So, so praise God. I would love to see another Petra record, because I think Bob, the songs I've sang for him are all, as usual, really cool. Yeah. But if it's supposed to be, it will be. If not, that's cool too.
Right. Well, I hope so. I'm just going to say I hope so. But in
a roundabout way, I hope so too. I think it'd be good. I'm part of a lot of new records right now, but it's not Petra. And so people have high expectations for Petra, and I love that. My writing, I've tried to stay away from Bob's style because I don't want to be a copycat. I've let God sort of guide me in what I do. It's not like it's not singing Bible verses, but it's absolutely what God puts on my heart, and it's exciting. It's fun. Like the Go record, for instance, has more of a theme that basically tries to wake up the body of Christ, but tries to wake up people. And it's a theme that God really put together, because when I started writing the songs, there was no necessary direction. I just had 3 different actually producing partners, and tried to make sure everything seemed to mesh with those 3 different teams. And the last song I wrote was Go, because by that time I could totally see the message that was being presented.
Well, you've got some great solo albums. I mean, are you really going to try to push this, since that whole pandemic mess? Are you really going to try to push, I'm
not letting it die. Yeah, I'm not going to let it die. I don't know when. I might be too old to sing the songs by that time, but I still, the Union Center Saints has a new album called One More Shot. It's a great album. We haven't had a chance to tour that one. Although mine came out before it did, so maybe I may say, I'm sorry, guys, you have to wait. I'm going to do mine.
Get in line.
You get in line. We did one show. I had my team together. We did one show in Indiana, and it went over great. So we've got the set. We know what we want to do. It's just a matter of demand. Like I said, you got Petra, you got Jay Secular Band, you got all this stuff. It's like it's hard to compete with me.
I will agree with that. I totally agree with that. How do you compete with John Schlitt? You know,
It's hard. I'm telling you, there's too many avenues. But including our past. I tell Bob, I said, Bob, sometimes our biggest competition is our past, because people remember those shows and it gets bigger as time goes on. And so you got to be really good to keep up with the memories. And so, but it's so fun. I just love doing it. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to be able to do music that edifies your God.
right.
There's no, I don't know how to say it. I did the secular thing and it was fun. The people were great, but it was great. It was fun. It was an evening of having fun. Where with Petra, it's an evening having fun, but knowing that this is actually eternal affecting.
Exactly.
That's big time. That's really big. Exciting.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. It's like you said, regular music is cool, according to what the lyrics are and things like that. But but like you said, when you're doing stuff that's forever, when it means somebody's soul, and they're listening to these words, and it really affects them. So when you get to heaven, God's not going to bring up all that regular music, but he probably have a few things to say about, Petra and the songs that brought all those people for all these 50 years. That's a lot of people, man. That's a lot of people that have come to the Lord, right? Because of your music, through the Lord drawing them, right? That's got to say something to you.
Well, God did it. And I just I pray that he's happy with us. I'm never sure. I always want to, I'm always, to be a singer, a rock singer, you've got to have a certain confidence, and you've got to come across as someone who believes in what he's doing. And sometimes I've got to make sure that I'm not letting my pride get in the way, or I don't want pride to get, I want skill to be there to present a very professional show. So, you always, you walk off the stage and you've just had an amazing time. You loved it. It was so gratifying. And you're going, okay, John, now you just for yourself or for God, what's going on? I'm just always worried about it. I don't worry about it, but I'm always hoping that God was pleased. I pray every night that God was pleased for every show we do.
Sure. That's a great prayer.
Because I'm human. I make mistakes. I blow it before I wake. Before I get out of bed, I blow it. So,
no, I thought you were perfect. Hey,
no, well, everybody keeps saying that, but I'm not.
I don't know why. Well, tell me this though. Here's a few some random questions. Now, what is the worst rumor that you've ever heard about yourself? How about that?
Boy, that's a new one. Good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Then I'm from hell. that I read a book once saying that I'm straight from hell. I think that's probably not a rumor, but it was written in a book, so it must be right.
Right.
That kind of thing rocked my boat.
Wow.
Yeah, that and in the same chapter, Bob was from hell too. So we were both from hell. Because we did some symbol, or Bob held his pick wrong, or I don't know. It was like, come on.
That's rough, man.
So that probably was one. That would be.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's messed up. What is your most embarrassing moment on tour?
Okay. All right. I was singing, I think it was Norway. And this was that short time period where it was cool to have no amps on stage. Drum set microphones, band, and all the amps and stuff were under the stage.
Right.
Well, in the US, we had side monitors, no floor monitors, because I move around a lot. But in Norway, they had floor monitors. And they also had Super Troopers. Now, for anyone that knows what Super Trooper, it's a spotlight that is bright as the sun, usually for very long distances. Well, this building wasn't as long as normal, so I had a Super Trooper on my, blinding me. I couldn't see a thing. So I get out in the front of the stage, as I always do. I'm singing, looking, and I could look at people away from the light. So I start to back up, and I fall flat on my behind because over a floor monitor. And I get up, and I'm looking at 6,000 people after my cool is totally gone. And I run back thinking, I got to get behind the stage. I got to get behind the amps just to get my and I realize there's no amps. And I run to Louie, and Louie says, get away from me, get away from me. I'm going. So that was probably the most embarrassing moment I can remember.
Right. Wow.
But you know what? I'll give you one more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I haven't used this one.
Oh.
I have a hard time in the beginning of a tour remembering words. And I think it was love we were doing, or it was love or prayer. And for some reason, a mental block, I could not remember the first line of the first verse. And we had to restart the song like 3 times. And the third time, I run over to Bob. I said, Bob, just tell me the first line. Tell me the first line. He goes, get away from me, because the spotlight was I finally looked at the crowd and said, what's the first line? And they sang it. I go, oh, thank you. And oh, did I get reamed for that? Oh my gosh.
These guys are supposed to have your back, man. Why are they doing it like that?
No. If I mess up the words, they don't even know me.
Yeah, who are you? Don't pay no attention to me,
no, the
man.
spotlight was on Bobby's. Get away from me. Get away from me.
I love it, man. I love it. What is the secret talent that you have that nobody knows about?
I'm a woodworker, pretty good woodworker.
Awesome.
I love making. I love taking old junk and turning it into, giving it a new life.
Yeah, so does God, right?
Amen. Yeah,
right?
Well, I'm not claiming to be God. I'm just doing it for furniture. Okay? But I started out with old antiques that people, an antique is hard because you either have to not touch it, fix it, but don't touch it and lose the antiqueness, or you just sand it all down, start over again and make it new. And so that was fun. And I started creating stuff that people saw on pictures but want better quality wood, that kind of stuff. I ended up making furniture for a lot of people that you know.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun. And I do that. Now I will say I've got a project in my shop right now that's been sitting there for 2.5 months. It's not a big one, but I just don't have time. The music has taken me over again. Praise God. So
it's got to wait for all those other projects you got to do, right? I mean,
yeah, I actually have to do music again. What is this?
Well, we see you mess up though when you do something, these little crafts and these little projects. People will be on the phone saying, "John, could you make this for my son for his birthday?" And you're like, "I got to do 100 of these."
Yeah, no. I actually I do get calls, and I have to say no. I've got one project once that they handed me, and no one else would do it, and I sat there going, I could probably do that. It would take forever. I don't want to do it. So I actually chose not to do it, which is very unusual for me. I usually face it as a challenge, thinking I can do it. And I knew all I had to do this year in the music genre, and I said, no, I don't want that on me.
Well, love knows when to say no.
Amen. Right? And I was being very kind to them.
Very good. Yeah, that was the first lyric. Love is patient, love is kind. Yeah, from First Corinthians 13. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that probably keeps you busy though. With the woodworking and things like that, and doing the music and stuff. But do you ever think about songs and stuff? I mean, sitting around. I mean, as a songwriter,
Right.
so does it come to you and you go, "I'll write this down"?
Uh, I write when I need to.
Mhm.
I'm a singer and have always been a singer. I and a front man, and that's all with the guys I have with all my different genres. I've always had amazing musicians that like to write, and um, I've co-written a lot, but I write when I need to, and all the other times I concentrate on delivering songs in the studio and delivering them live. And that really is what my forte is. Uh, Now, when I have the opportunity to do my solo record, then that allows me to get in that genre and be, what do I want to say? And it's surprising. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on your mind that you carry for a long time, but you stay busy doing other stuff that's more demanding. But when I have to sit down and say, okay, what's on your mind? Uh, I've got more on my mind than I thought. And so it's very exciting to be able to do it that way. I'm I play guitar, but never in front of anyone. I can dabble on piano, but only enough to do writing. I'm just around too many great people, music wise, to do anything but what I can do is sing. And so I'm sort of an oddball in the music business. I don't know a lot about other bands. I don't know a lot about this. I just know my core, and I try my best in my core. So musically, I'm not an outcast. I just sort of choose not to be part of that business that much.
Yeah, I understand that. Um, well, what's one thing, before we go, what's one message you'd like to just tell everybody that they need to hear today from you, that you'd like to tell them, if you could say one message to the
Okay,
people?
it's always two-part. It's Christians. Right now, the world looks sick as it can be. Be encouraged, because the more the enemy thinks he's got things going, is the more that Christ comes forward. Right now, in this world, the body of Christ is growing faster than you'll ever know. The internet, the news people are not part of our team at this moment, and they're not going to tell you that your family is growing major. Do not be afraid to be part of the family of God. Do not be convinced that it's over. It's not over. God will never be over. God is for eternity. And this is just a little clip. This is sort of rehearsal. This life you're living right now is rehearsal for the eternity that you have to look forward to. And remember, look forward to it. Now, to non-Christians, the Christians that have never known the relationship with Christ, why not? You've got the God of the universe that wants to go before you and guide you in a life that you don't even know how amazing it is. God planned your life before the beginning of time, but he gave you a choice. You've got a choice. You've got to choose. Do I want to go the way of the creator of the universe, or do I want to know better and do it myself, which is going to lead you to emptiness? No, I don't care if you're the richest man in the world. In the end, you will be empty without Christ.
Amen. That's a good message. Wow. So it's now to our preaching section. John, he's going to preach for enough.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, man. I tell you what, I really appreciate seeing you and talking to you. It's just a pleasure, man. The greatest Christian rock singer ever. I mean, you're the man with that. I mean, and you are great, man, and super nice guy. Hopefully I'll see you out there. I was going to try to come to the Huntsville show. My friend Clay, I just want to say that Clay Medley, he bugs me. So we were going to go to the Petra show, and I got sick. But hopefully somewhere out there, you're going to do some more shows in the future in the area.
I don't know if in that area, but we're doing a lot of shows, buddy. A lot of people are driving from long distances, realizing this may be the last time they see us. It's been but no, keep an ear out because shows are coming. They keep coming. We thought we'd do maybe 8 or 10 this year, and we've already done that amount. We got more than that still to do. So we're very glad. I mean, we've actually got sort of a bona fide tour happening this year. So it's really exciting. And there are folks knocking on the door going, what about next year? What about this? We'll be in your area sooner. Just don't miss it. Don't miss it.
I'm going to have to just fight whatever that's against me to be there, man. But I'll be looking forward to that. And I appreciate you so much, man.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, buddy. That's when my team said you wanted to talk to me. Of course. Just tell me.
Sure. Well, I can't say enough about you. One of my favorite people of all time. And I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for talking to me today.
Absolutely. And thank you for having this avenue for us to be able to share and talk to people.
Sure. Well, you have a great day and a great tour, and I hope to see you out there. And all the best to you.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
All right.
Thanks for your podcast.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go check out Petra on tour somewhere near you. You need to. I need to. And go to their website for more information. And 50 Years of Petra. They've got all kinds of merchandise you need to check out. Some great albums there. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And always remember to keep the music real.